Shakespeare's birthday, that's right. Well, what I'd like to do today is depart from stage combat a bit and show you a lot of the moves that are in these books. Back in the 16th century, there were fight masters, teachers of fighting technique, that wrote manuscripts and manuals on how to fight. And many of them exist in this library right here. And I have spent, of course, 20 years as a reader here and explored the treasures that are in this library. And what I'd like to do is show you a lot of the movement treasure that has come from those that research and those manuscripts and manuals. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So we're not going to show full fights. We're going to show you how they learned fights, what they did to train themselves, and what those moves and how they structured those moves, which is as complicated and as beautiful as any Eastern martial arts. It was a highly sophisticated and very advanced form of fighting. So, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, so, I'd like to introduce Raphael.
Hi.
And Nafisa, and James, and Heather, and Claudia. So let's give it up for them.
Woo! Yeah.
First thing I'd like to do is start with your feet, all right? What they did is they formed these systems that they would teach their provosts and their students, their participants of learning to fight. And very often what you would see on the fencing saw floor is an 8-pointed star. As you can see here, well, you probably can't see it, but there's an 8-pointed star here. Okay?
Just step off and we'll show the lifting.
Yeah.
But you gotta eat.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
Show them. So it's a little 8-pointed star. So it shows the directions in which people would move in their fighting technique. So let's put that right back down again. So we have this star to show you. So Heather, let me use you for a second. So here she comes. She's going to stand in the middle of this fighting star, as it were. Okay, and this would be the 0. We have 45s, 90, rear 45s, and 180. So that Nafisa, why don't you come up and hit Heather in the head with a shinai? Okay.
which one?
Oh, anyone is fine. So Heather's going to cue and go, and now Heather, if she steps forward on the 0, that would be a little bit suicidal. And the system that I'm talking about is Degrassi's system. He wrote his manual in Italian, of course, in 1568. Degrassi had his manual come out. And in it, he described the footwork system, which is interesting because he says, you all know this, but I'll put it down anyway. And thank God he did, because we don't know it. And so when we look back on the footwork patterns that you have in the 16th century, it was a complex system. All right, so she goes to cut, and she might advance or pass forward. And to make a pass, you see, back in the 16th century, to make a pass at someone meant that you had the footwork pattern to try and kill somebody. So now if we put Nafisa on the 0, and we put it here, and Heather right here. Now Heather, I want you to do a crooked or sloped case to avoid her weapon. Go ahead. And boom. She now has clothes and can touch Nafisa. Okay? Now, neutral. She's going to now traverse, which is a sideways motion. Go ahead. And traverse her avoid. Okay? Now, she's going to thwart or back thwart on the 45, and now she's gained distance with that. Okay? And now, go ahead and neutral. She's going to what we call the slip, but it's called a circular pace. It's where her foot will compass in a circle to avoid any kind of incoming attack. So here she comes, and there she goes. So these various footwork patterns are in Degrassi's manual. So I'm going to have you now, Heather. I'm going to grab a stick, okay, just a stick. All right, and you can see that when Nafisa goes to attack me, I can stop this, right, by coming in forward. But that's really quite not, because it's force against force. And when we're dealing with 16th century fighting, force and the meeting of that force is very, very important, because you always want to keep yourself safe. So I always want to go offline. That's what Degrassi recommends. He wouldn't recommend going straight forward towards that person. That happened perhaps later on in the late rapier, early small sword era. Okay? So now, if I wanted to keep my distance, I might go on a back four. She comes in. You see, now I've taken her energy on a diagonal, which is stronger, you see. I can do something with it. So if by thwarting her intent, right, boom, I can come in and attack, all right? That's with a crooked or sloped pace. If I did a straight pace, that would mean that I would have to take her off and come in for an attack. The circular pace is made for going around. So I might take the circular pace and take and grab her. So that's the footwork system on the pass. But that's not all. There's half pass. Everybody say half pass.
Half pass.
So if we had daggers, I'm going to grab a couple of daggers. Claudia, I'm going to use you for a second. Sure.
Don't give her the stick. You made a stick.
Yeah, take it. Now, Claudia's going to come in with a practice dagger. And they very often had wood daggers in the 16th century to practice with, because why practice with real weapons? Okay. So now, as she comes in, I want to keep my distance, but I also want to keep my line of attack. So as she comes in, I might do a half pass, which takes it just out of distance, and then return to come in with an attack. Does that make sense? So now we have 8 directions: 0, 45s, 90, rear 45s, and of course the 180. I can step on any of these lines with either my right foot or my left foot. So there are basically 22 basic footwork patterns that you have. With half pass, you have more than that. And you see the hip relationship. Now we'll go to hip. Everybody say hip.
Hip.
Structure is very important in fighting. Okay? So Heather, come on up here for a second. No. Now Heather is in neutral position. Now she's stable this way, but not this way. Okay? So her vulnerability is forward and back. If she takes 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, she straddles a 45 line, but her hip relationship is forward. This gives her both width and depth of base, so of greater stability. Now, it would be even greater yet had we 4 legs. So cows, dogs, they are superior in their fighting technique because they have 4 legs. Okay? But 2 will have to do because we're fighting on 2 feet. The hip relationship here, if you neutralize it between the feet, then it becomes a 2-point stance and she is vulnerable again. So when you look at a lot of the grappling and dagger work of the 16th century, you see the destruction of a proper structure. Now, Fiore was a fencing master in the early Elizabethan, in the, I'd say, 1400s, okay? His work really examples good and proper structure. And all the presas, and a presa is a form of attack system using the dagger, is the foundation to all fighting. And I'll show you why. So, thank you, Heather. Let me abuse Nafisa for a second. Oh, no, that's good. That's good. Come on in. Now, what we're going to do is Claudia is going to bury the dagger into Nafisa's chest. Go ahead. And now, Nafisa does not want that because it's not good for Nafisa. Okay? So now what she's going to do is stop that intent. Now, what I'm going to show Nafisa just real quick what we're going to do. Oh, okay. She's going to hit a proper structure, both with width and depth of base, but also taking it into a proper structure to stop her attack. So this is the structure of 4 in Fiore's system. So Claudia comes in. You see how she stops her. She has a real good block there, and she's going into what we call a grip. Now, as she goes into a grip, you see she's grabbed the arm. But in grabbing the arm, she's taking this line right here out of alignment. You see how it destroys her structure on that. So now she's behind and to the right of her base. See, she can easily fall. Now, to help her with that, you're going to go into the first presa in Morozzo's manual of 1568 and 1536. So this is a move from the 16th century to take a person down. Watch how she destroys that structure. Do it slowly. And first hit a proper structure and block. Go ahead. Boom. Now she goes into a grip. She takes it and she neutralizes that shoulder to the hips. Now she has a two-point stance. She closes the line of the leg and then takes Claudia down. And that's the first presa that we learn. So, when you guys come on up again, it's the destruction of structure. You hit a Fury 4 structure. By me taking this out, I take the upper structure. By twisting this, you see how it locks this whole muscle structure. By closing that line, she has to fall. So when we look at how these things work through martial principles, we begin to learn how this is universal in all the weapons and all the weapon structures. Okay? So now, take that up and show them it up to tempo tap. Go ahead. And very often, they would take that right knee and put it on the diaphragm to keep them from breathing properly once they got them down. Try it one more time. That's nice. Very good. Very good. Let's hear it from you. Now, how did they work these things? What we're doing is grab the 12-pounder. All right. Come on now. Yes. All right. Now get the 12-pounder to Rafael. Okay. This is 12 pounds of mass. When I talk about the extension of energy, when you go out to meet any kind of force, if you lock your muscle structure, what it does is weakens you and makes everything connected to your whole structure to yield. So if I lock myself up, even if I have a proper structure, and he throws that 12 pounds, you see, it affects, you can throw it. Okay. Can I throw it? Okay, I can feel that, and it takes me behind my base. Now, without that structure, I wouldn't even be able to stop it. Now, the expression of energy, if I think of perhaps hugging my children or my wife, my body knows what to do. It's something that they want to do, okay? If I use that intent in the release of energy, where I'm relaxing the arm instead of trying to tighten it, then it becomes very strong and flexible. Let's do it on this side, so you throw it from this side. Okay? So he's going to toss that, and then I'm going to think of relaxing and extending the energy. Go ahead. And you see, it comes back. The impact from me meeting that energy is less stress on me and more powerful in meeting something like that. See? So when he does it again, you see where the ball goes. But if I express this energy coming from what we call a center or a core, that expression of energy, go ahead, you see, it comes out and it becomes less of an impact. The same with the dagger. So grab a dagger. Now, if the dagger goes flying out there, just catch it. Okay? All right? So hold on to it and crook. He's going to come in, and I'm going to use the same structure on the energy of expressing it out. And I like to compress that energy and then release it. So I'm bringing my power into a kind of a ball. And I'm going to express that energy with a hug or reaching for something that I want, okay? So that as he comes in, great energy, go ahead, and there's no way he's going to penetrate this. So come in really with a good one. Just hit me once. Go ahead, hit, bam, okay? Now he has intent. I'm going to redirect that intent and give him a good block using the release of energy as opposed to tightening a structure. So as he comes in, right, there, and then I can do anything I want with him because I have a proper structure and I've destroyed his. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you're going down. Okay, so now, come on up. In doing this, we do ball work that helps us train ourselves on how to work this. So now, using this ball here, you're going to take it and go into the structures that are in Presa 1. So you can see a series of structures just using a ball. Okay? We usually do the 4-pound, but she has the 12-pound. So go ahead and hit it and go slowly. Go ahead. She hits a structure. Now look at how her core is engaged. That heel is flexible. That knee is flexible. It's not anchored to the floor. It's not grounded. It's planted, but not grounded. Now she takes it and she changes that. Now what she does is she's curving the energy to the right, which takes it into a different kind of energy, which what we call Fury 1, okay? Go ahead, and then she takes it and goes through, and then takes it around, go ahead, go this way, and then she brings it into her core. So there are four basic, there's 4 basic energies that she's dealing with. One that comes out, do 4. The energy comes out and use it in a way, it's leverage, meeting any kind of attack, whether it be a sword or a dagger. When she takes it to the right into that forward leg, this support mechanism, the energy rides up and curves to the right. When she crosses and takes the energy this way, she bends it and it curves from the top across, okay? And then when she brings it into her core, she brings it into her center. So, so you can see how energy is redirected, either out, to the right, to the left, or into your center. So now, Nafisa, attack Claudia, okay, with a dagger. And now, watch how she uses these core structures in a sequence, or what I call a song. It's like a melody, much like any kind of melody that you might have in a jazz piece. But this melody has different notes or structures, and they work in the tempo or in unison with the person that's perpetrating that energy. So when she comes in, right, she meets that energy, she redirects it using her core energy, right? And she closes lines and does martial principles. Go ahead and step through, right, and take her down. And see, she goes into her center, she must go around, okay? So basically what you're seeing is a very sophisticated approach to combat. It's not simple. There are energies involved, there are structures involved, and of course techniques. Would you like to see some more? Okay, so now, Nafisa, why don't you attack me? Now, just come on forward. Okay. There are certain areas on the body that we can be inside her right, inside her left, outside her left, and outside her right. And there are different grips that you use to create control of those things. So when she comes in to bury them, well, it's only wood, so it's all right.
I almost had
Now, this is an inside right grip. You see how I land on this? Even in the grip, I don't try to squeeze, because that's very weak. What I do is I tell my little phalanges, I want you to reach for something around it. So what it does is the energy goes around her hand, and you can feel that, right?
Yes.
Where I'm not trying to squeeze, I'm just trying to get around your hand, and it becomes a very flexible and very strong grip. Now, let's say I wanted an outside long grip. Then I would take this here and go to the outside in my long grip. And why I call it a long grip, think of this as a sword. Here's the pommel of the sword, and here's the blade. So now I have an outside long grip on it. There are other grips that we can have. We can have what we call a crooked grip. You see how that's crooked instead of long? This is a crooked grip. Now these are the two that I'd like to show you. This is Presa 10, and Presa 17. Everybody go, ooh. 10 and 17. Isn't it getting excited? Yeah. Wow! 10 and 17. So now, you come on this side. She attacks me, and I use my structure to, in a way, stop that attack and keep my strength. I might take myself a little bit offline, so watch. I'm going to do a circular pace, and this is where we're taking the footwork system and applying it to the Presa system with, of course, the structure system. So there are 3 systems that we're working, okay? So as she comes in, I'll take this. Now that I have myself protected, I'm also in a grip, and I can take her this way. Now, do you see how her toe comes up? It's very easy to take her down. Or I can take her this way and destroy her structure by keeping my own and take her into the structure of 3. So it's very simple martial principles that are being involved here. But there are complex footwork patterns, structural integrities that we have to keep in mind, and of course, the story. You see, these Presas are like stories, martial stories. So if you think of Alice in Wonderland and, you know, Jack and the Beanstalk, they're of the same genre, right, of storytelling, but 2 different stories, right? Like 2 different songs. These are different songs so that I'm either on her inside or her outside. So there are so many things that I can do. So as she comes in, right, go ahead, boom, I make the decision. Maybe she's kind of coming in on that side, so I will take it into 17 and take it, disarm her, and, you know, pin cushion kind of thing, okay? Or I can take her to the outside and take her out and down. And you see how I have to pull her energy into my own. If I do that, come on back up, rewind. If I don't, watch what happens. Well, she went down very nicely. but I don't have any strength. But as she comes in, watch so. Watch in a way, I'm going to throw you this time. Let's do it this way so that you can fold towards the audience. You see, the more energy and force that Nafisa gives to me, the more I can redirect and use in her desire to go to the ground. She says, I really want to come to the ground. And I say, okay, let me help you. Okay, I don't want to throw her to the ground because I'm a nice guy and I've got to fight all day, right? Let her waste her energy. So now I'm going to use full energy. Don't get hurt.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so go ahead. Boom, and boom. You see, this is really good energy. She supplied most of that. Let's hear it for Nafisa. Now, that's the dagger grappling aspect of it. Would you like to see a little bit of fisticuffs?
Fisticuffs!
Okay, so friends, arm yourself.
Go, Claudia.
What we're doing, because this stuff is quite quick, it's not stage combat. We have some fine stage combat fighters outside, and if you guys want to see some great illusions of violence and using the blade, those guys are just wonderful to watch. This is historical martial arts. The martial arts of the West, which is as sophisticated and as beautiful as any of the Eastern martial arts, except that the West let it die as an art form. It wasn't part of their culture. And of course, war has a tendency to destroy parts of culture, including martial systems. Okay, so now we're going to put on these things. Why do we wear these things, Steve? Well, if I do it too fast and too hard, I want to protect my hand off of Nafisa's head. Okay? All right? I don't want to hurt my hand on her head. And I'm sure she probably doesn't want to hurt her head. So we have to kind of protect ourselves using training equipment or grappling equipment. Now, you guys do the first Presa and notice that they are taking their the attack on the inside right. Oh, okay. All right. So move over just a little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead and throw a right, Claudia. and then take her into prima. Go ahead. And now, as she goes into grips, she goes into a punch at the same time. Go ahead. And punch. Now, what's really different about this, and maybe a lot of the jiu-jitsu and karate and those kind of things, they're actually holding on to the victim and weakening their structure and then coming through with an attack, which is a great violence to the head and neck. Okay? So now, let me be you, Nafisa, for a second. So when we take this prima presa, the structures of Fiore, the prima presa, and put it up into tempo, then what I'll do is I'll do it up to speed. I'll get to her face and stop, if you don't mind, and then do it in slow motion. So when I go into slow motion, you guys can go, okay? Sound good? So now here she comes, right? And there, I'm there. I've already taken her structure, so I'm actually hold her and go ahead. Okay, aren't I mean?
Yes.
So you can hiss if you want. Okay, let's do it on this side so they can say yes. Now, I'm going to punch Claudia. Okay, you can cheer for her.
Woo! You girl.
So here I come. I throw one. She's going to go into prima presa for me too. Yeah, so ready? And boom. Go ahead. Ow! You see, that's very destructive. Unlike just a block and a punch, she's actually holding on to me so she can keep going. The reason for this is, if you can imagine, I have armor on. And you see, these techniques were made for war, not street fighting. Okay? So martial arts over the ages have, in a way, mutated into kind of tournament kind of things where the techniques are a lot more gentle than you would see in the 16th century, because these were made to kill and to maim, even if they have armor on, despite, you know, where contemporary martial arts has a tendency to have things that you can survive doing to each other. Okay? So now, I'm going to go to her outside and do a 17 to her. So when she comes in for that punch, right? Go ahead. Boom! I'm going to take it and destroy her base this way and come in for a hit. All right? So now, in slow motion, we'll do it in 4 beats. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We learn it this way so we can understand the different aspects of it. I'm blocking, redirecting, I'm going into grips, I'm destroying her structure, coming in for an attack. Now we'll do it in 2 beats. So you guys go, and 1 and 2. Ready? And 1 and 2. Okay? Sorry. I love it when I punch people. Okay. Now we do it in 1 beat, and that takes a little while to kind of get down. Okay? So when she comes in, okay, boom! You see, you're there, going in. Oh, are you okay? Okay, push through. You're going in and taking the tempo on that into a direct attack. Is that okay? Okay, good. All right. Now, you may wonder, why do they learn this without weapons? Or with just the dagger? They didn't. The same principles apply with any weapon. For instance, Raphael, grab a longsword and defeat him. Okay, so now, here we are. You guys can fight a little bit on the diagonal. Okay. The same martial principles that we've been looking at just briefly is going to be the same thing with the weapon work. When she comes in, Raphael, why don't you take the feast? Okay, now hit a Fiore structure 4. Go ahead. And cut. Boom. Now she's got the line. She's met his energy and taken him just outside of line. Of course, you see his sword is not in her head, which is good. Now, if she takes the energy and what I call a dump, or letting fall, she lets that fall as she goes in for an attack. Okay? Do you see how the same principle applies? So if Claudia stands right here, okay, and you're right here, right there, you're going to attack Nafisa, and she's going to attack me. So she goes, go ahead and boom, all right? You see the same structure, and boom, all right? So now take up the tempo that we've learned in fisticuffs and in the dagger presa, and show them how this move would be up to tempo. Go ahead, and do you see how fast that is? But it took his energy away. He's what they call lying spent. When you go to do something, you're like out here. And this is a weak structure. Strong structure, weak structure. So he's in a position that's weak, where she's in a position that's strong. And she takes his energy and takes him down. Now, if she takes him into what we call a 10, Claudia, let me abuse you for a second. Just to show you what 10 is again. She comes in, hold on for a second. She comes in, go ahead, boom. And here's my 10 taking her down, okay? And up she comes again. And you guys can hiss if you want. Okay, good. Now, okay. So now, Raphael takes on Nafisa and does the same thing. So you take him into a 10, get on top of the sword. Here, boom. No, I go here. Yeah. So here he comes, he's gonna get it. There, now go ahead, she gets on top of the sword and then comes in for an attack. All right, does everybody see that? Now take it up a little faster, don't hit me. Yeah, ready? And 1, 2, boom. Now, what she does, what a full wind up, you can do the 10 in one hit. Watch so. Nafisa, why don't I abuse you for a second? This takes a little while to get the idea, so I'll do it slowly, but then you can see how fast and how deadly these martial arts were in reality. We can't do this for the stage. The actors would die. Okay? Yeah. Yeah! I'm with you. Okay, so I'm an actor. Okay, so now I'm going to take her energy into my structure. So I come forward, boom. Now I go into the structure of 10 and go into her head. Now I'm going to now use her energy, just like we used Claudia's energy, just like we used Raphael's. And watch how I displace her weapon with the structure of 10, presa 10, and take that energy directly into her head in one action. Okay, so don't die. Okay, ready? Go ahead. Do you see that? Right on her beanie, okay? Right on her beanie, within a couple of millimeters, really. Okay, that was close, you could feel it, okay? But do you see that I took that line and it was immediate? It looks like I'm hitting her sword, but in reality, she's hitting my sword in a structure that displaces her energy. And I use my energy much like a pool ball or a ball will bounce off a wall going into something. Does that make sense? So these energies are really quite remarkable when you look at them. Come on this side and I'll do a 17. Now, the 17 on this is a little bit more difficult as well, but it works. Go ahead. Boom. And then I can hit her. And do you notice I did? I used a footwork pattern to get myself away from her, yet strike. You see, tempo. Everybody say tempo. Tempo. Tempo is a very important thing in when you're fighting. When she's attacking me, if I take the same distance, you see, nobody gets hurt. And that's stage combat in a way, isn't it? We always keep a distance, and I always go at the end of her time. If I want to get somewhere a little bit faster, I'll have to go towards her. I always think of this as the Doppler effect. If you're going towards a train or a train is coming towards you, it goes jugga 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 jugga. The sound comes up. If you're going towards a train and it's coming towards you, it'll go whoop. Really, the sound goes up. If you go away from a train coming towards you, it goes chugga 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 chugga. But if two objects are coming towards each other, the time becomes very small and the force becomes greater. So that when she comes in, I'm going to chug on you now. Okay, go ahead.
Check it.
Go! You see, the tempo is very, very, very tight, and you have to have that just perfect. Otherwise, you get hit, or she hits you, right? And instead of me hitting her. Does everybody see that? Now, would you like to see another? Okay, so now, Heather, let me abuse you for a second. Grab a dagger. How you guys doing?
Woo.
I find this the most beautiful art form in the world. And if you look around you, the great treasure of knowledge that they have in this library is for everyone, isn't it? So if you want to learn anything about Shakespeare, you know, how they dressed, how they ate, how they lived, how they fought, this is the place to come. Does that sound good? Yeah. So celebrate his birthday. Let's say, happy birthday, Shakespeare.
Happy birthday, Shakespeare.
Now, I'm going to actually do what they call an 18, okay, to Heather. So when Heather comes in, I'm going to close my line. So I've got to be quick on this. As she steps in, I'm going to step in and use that structure and get behind Heather. Take her neck, pull it back, which is a neck-breaking move. You see how her structure is not as strong as mine right now? Okay? And then you can just let them fall, and then you've got control of their dagger on the original bracer. Come on up, Heather. Thank you. Let's hear it for Heather.
Woo.
8 minutes. Oh, okay, so now we're going to do the same thing in fisticuffs. My goodness, time flies when you're having fun. Okay, come on. So I'm going to do the same thing to Nafisa, and then Nafisa will do the same thing to Raphael. In fact, Raphael, come on up here. You're over here, Nafisa. Raphael, you're right there.
Raphael's over there.
Okay, so now she's going to pull an 18 on him. Okay, so he comes in to punch. Go ahead. Now get behind him.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, there. Go ahead. Take him. Now use your other hand to punch. Okay, good. Okay, now bring that a little bit up to tempo. Get to his outside. And notice that she's going into an outside right long grip with her right. Did everybody notice that? Okay. Okay. So go ahead. Ready? Punch. Boom. She goes into a grip. Boom. There it is. And she has proper structure. She has ruined his. Now, let's see. Claudia, come on in. You take the weapon and take the piece down. So grab the long swords. Now we're going into blade actions. She's going to take the same thing. Now, with a double-handed broadsword or a long sword, they used it with both hands, but guess what?